Hey everybody, I'm going to describe something and I want to see if you can guess what the answer is. We say it in church every single Sunday here at First Presbyterian. We teach it to our children when they're young. We kind of put it in the same category as wallpaper and that corner of the garage that has all the junk. We have become so accustomed to it that we no longer notice it or give it its worth. Any guesses? If you think the answer might be the Lord's Prayer, you're right. Jesus taught his disciples the Lord's Prayer in the midst of the Sermon on the Mount, when the disciples had garnered up enough courage to say to Jesus, "Your prayers are different than what they've taught us in the synagogues. Your prayers have an intimacy, a connection. There's something different about it, and we want in on what it is and how we can do that in our lives." So Jesus, in kind of an unusual twist, answers the disciples. He gives them the perfect prayer, the model prayer on how to pray to God. So I want to hit a few of the highlights. The Lord's Prayer starts with, "My Father who art in heaven." My Father. What a point of intimacy. What a point of connection and affection and a deep, important, essential relationship. Those first two words say so much about how we should interpret God and who God is in our lives. Side note, if praying to the Father is a trigger for you, if that's hard because of a broken earthly father relationship or not having a father relationship, I totally hear that and I want to leave space for you. But explore. Does it work to pray to the Creator God, to the Parent God, to the all-encompassing light and warmth of God? Play around with that if Father is a word that's hard for you. But find something that points to the great affection and the intimacy of a relationship with God. Jesus then moves on to talking about recognizing God as holy. Jesus honors God right from the beginning, just as God is holy, set apart, all of God's gloriousness wrapped into one word. Then Jesus prays to let God's kingdom come. That's Jesus' declaration that he is all in. Granted, he is God praying to God, but he is on board with God's mission both in heaven and on earth. He's all in. He's on that team. He wants to deeply, deeply know God and live out God's way here on earth. The next part of the prayer is, "Give us our daily bread," a practical, specific request for food. God cares. If you're not sure about rent or the mortgage, or you need your car to putter on for another year, God cares about those practical, tactile concerns in your life. Pray for those. Then Jesus moves to forgiveness, reminding us once again that forgiveness is a give and take. We have to forgive others in order to be forgiven. The give and take is an equal measure. The whole overarching theme of the Lord's Prayer is faithfulness. And it comes up again when we request not to be tempted or led into evil. We're clinging, begging to God that we would be firmly attached to him, that we would not go astray. So The Lord's Prayer is vital. It's important. I just instinctively touched my heart because that's where it lives. But if it's become the wallpaper or the corner in the garage or basement that you kind of gloss over each Sunday, I invite you to sit down with your Bible in a quiet place. Open your Bible up to Matthew chapter 6. You'll find the Lord's Prayer in verses 9 through 13. And I want you to read each verse or each line, whatever works best for you, aloud and one at a time. At the end of each line, I want you to ask the question, God, if you answered that right now in my life, what would it look like? And then whether ideas or answers to that come right away or you imagine it, sit with that. Take the model of the Lord's Prayer and mold it into what you need in your prayer life. How might daily bread look if God answered and provided that right now for you? What would it look like right now to not be tempted to covet, or the list goes on? How would it look right now if you really started to work intentionally and thoughtfully on having a deep, connected parent-child relationship with God? Sit with the Lord's Prayer. Read it aloud. Ask God what it would look like if that prayer was answered right now. And then be amazed with me on Sunday when we say it aloud in worship, and the Lord's Prayer has a whole new meaning.